Hey guys, Brother Ronnie here. Welcome back to the channel. I think one of the things to me that encourages me more than anything else in my walk with the Lord is the answer to prayers that I have seen over the many years since I've been a Christian. And I look back on God's faithfulness throughout those many answered prayers, and it's very, very encouraging to me. In fact, sometimes when I'm out here in my shop, someone asked me the other day, said, Brother Ron, where do you film at? Do you have a studio? Man, does this look like a professional studio? This is a workshop. There's tools just, there's tools and things like that in there. This is where I'm able to come and to be alone. Not only do I work here, but this is where I come to pray. This is where I come when I really need to just get along with the Lord for whatever reason. But a lot of times I like to come out here and just sit, just think, just reflect on answered prayer, because it's very encouraging to me to see the number of times that God has just answered. I believe that to me is one of the evidences that you have a genuine relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ, is that you have an active prayer life and you have answered prayer. The Lord assures us that He would give us answer to prayer. He tells us that if we ask anything in His name, that we can have those things that we petition the Lord for. He instructed His disciples to pray. He taught us how to pray. He taught us how to ask for provisions. He taught us how to be thankful for the answer to prayer. And I think an active prayer life is one of the evidences that you have truly been born again. When you have a genuine relationship with anyone, a human being, that relationship is nurtured by conversations. And I think the Christian life's no different. Our relationship with our Father, our relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ, our relationship with the Spirit of God that seals us is dependent upon the conversation that we have, both us seeing what God has said to us in His Word, as well as us responding to Him in prayer and giving thanks, making petitions, and so forth. But anyway, as I was sitting out here today, I was thinking about some of the times that the Lord has answered prayer. And have you guys ever been in a position where you just literally did not think that God was going to answer a prayer? And it was something major. I mean, it was something drastic. You needed an answer and you needed it immediately, but you just didn't think God was going to come through or show up for you. I've been there. I've had such a time as that. I was just thinking about it earlier, and I was trying to think about how to tell you guys this story without getting into a lot. Most of you guys know about my past. You know the person I was before I got saved. You know the kind of lifestyle I lived. I don't like to talk about that a lot. I'm not, one of these guys that they say, well, hey, get up in church and tell the testimony. And a lot of people feel like the worse testimony they have, the better story it creates. I see a lot of that as just giving credit to the devil. And let's just suffice it to say that I was not a Christian before I got saved. Can we just sum it up right there? But part of my lifestyle included some violence and some things that I'm not particularly proud of, but they were part of my life nonetheless. This one particular time, I had gotten into a fight with a gentleman. I think I was about 17 years old, and this man that I was fighting with was probably in his 30s. And anyway, long story short, in this particular fight, and the only reason I'm telling you this much is because it's relevant to the rest of the story that does actually gives honor to God. But he and I got into a fight, and long story short, I got the better of him that night. And it ended up costing him a little bit of money because I sent him to the emergency room to get a few stitches. And so it cost him some money and some financial harm and things like that. And years later, I got saved. I became a Christian. And after I became a Christian, my lifestyle before was very, very convicting to me. I did not like many of the things that I did back then, but one of the things in particular that I was grieved by was the amount of violence that I had been involved in. It had become a bit of a way of life to me. And violence is like a drug. It really is. The more you do it, you get addicted to it. You get addicted to the adrenaline high. You get addicted to, all the things, that fight or flight that your body goes through when you engage another man in combat, and it becomes addictive. But it's a very, very brutal thing to be addicted to. And after the Lord Jesus had mercy on me and I was born again, God placed it within my heart that I did not want to hurt people anymore. I didn't want to engage in combat I didn't want to fight. I got invited to a men's martial arts. It was at a church, it was a Christian thing. They wanted men to go in and train other Christian men how to fight. And I got invited to go to one of those right after I got saved, very, very shortly after I got saved. And I went. They had a gym set up there that had the actual, big heavy punching bags and had the speed bags and all these various things. And I went into this gym and began to warm up on one of those bags in, preparation of seeing what all this was about. As I was standing there punching on this bag, it was like I realized I'm done. This is not me anymore. I have no desire to hurt people. I have no desire to be violent. I have no desire to fight anymore. I'm done with this. And I prayed and asked the Lord, please don't let me ever use my hands again to cause pain to another human being. I don't want to hurt people no more. And I said, if I am ever in a position for that, please deliver me. Please let that part of my life be done. Let it be over. I want nothing more to do with violence. And about 3 years after I became a Christian, I believe it was around 3 to 5 years, somewhere in that neighborhood. Anyway, I was sitting in my house and had the windows up. I lived in a house that didn't have central heat and air, and so if summertime, you lifted the windows up to cool the house down. Right next door to me, there was a minute market that was sitting there and had the gas pumps and everything outside and the payphone beside the building. And I was actually inside the house. I was on the phone to who is my wife at the time. She and I were just dating during this time, but I was on the phone with her and I heard someone calling my name. So I told her, I said, let me get off the phone with you. I'm gonna walk over here and see who this is. I couldn't make out who they were because it was quite some distance. And I said, there's somebody over here calling my name. I'll walk over here and see who it is, see what they want. And I hung up the phone with her and I walked over, and lo and behold, it is this guy that I had gotten into this pretty bad situation with before. And not only was it him, it was also two of his brothers. The car door opened up where they were, and both of his brothers got out, and one of them walked over and stood just over to my right, and the other one walked over and stood just to my left. And I'd been in enough of these situations to recognize the fact they wasn't surrounding me because they were about to shake my hand and tell me how much I had been missed in their presence. These guys had full intentions that when this opportunity was right, I believe they were probably going to beat on me like a Buddhist on a drum. But nevertheless, they got in their positions, and I'm sitting here in my mind thinking to myself, and I'll be honest with you, I wish I could sit here and tell you, man, I was spiritual faith. I had so much faith, I wasn't worried about nothing. I knew God was going to deliver me. I knew God was going to answer my prayer. I wish I could tell you all that. But guys, I'd only been saved for a very short period of time. I think it had been 3 years from the fight to the time I got saved, and just a short period of time thereafter. I hadn't had a lot of experiences with the Lord by this time. So In my mind, I'm planning and plotting how I'm going to get out of this situation with the least amount of bloodshed. In my mind, I'm planning this fight out and what I'm going to do. I slip my hand into my back pocket to pull out my pocket knife that I always carried, and thinking that I am going to have to defend myself in a fight against three men who probably have been plotting and planning this for quite some time. And about the time I started thinking which one of these guys I'm going to kick, hit, punch, cut, whatever I got to do to get out of this, a car pulls up. And I'll never forget this car. It was a long, stretched out red Cadillac with a white soft top on it. And as the car door opened on this Cadillac, out stepped just a monster of a black guy. I mean, this guy looked like he could have been a lineman on some NFL football team. This guy was just a monster. And he got out of the car, and just over to my right-hand side, there was a payphone. And he walks over to the payphone, puts some coins in, takes the phone off, and begins a conversation with somebody. Well, apparently these three guys decided that they didn't want to beat me with a witness, especially one the size of this man. And so they just stopped and kind of looked around, wondering how long it was going to be before he got on about his business. And in my mind, again, I'm thinking, Lord, if you don't do something pretty quick, I am going to, you remember the disciples when they were out there on that ship and, they started getting worried and they said, Lord, do you care not that we're about to perish? Well, that's kind of the mindset I was in. Oh, ye of little faith is what Jesus said to them. And that's exactly what described me. Oh, ye of little faith. I'm plotting how I'm going to get out of this situation. And this guy's standing on the phone. In the next moment, up walked a gentleman who was known to everyone in my neighborhood, the neighborhood that I grew up in. Everybody knew this guy. He was kind of the neighborhood drunk. If you saw him anytime, day or night, usually he was intoxicated. And this was also the case on this particular night. This gentleman walked up and he began to talk to those three brothers who were standing there waiting for their opportunity to wail me over. He walked up and he started to say to them, what are you guys doing in this neighborhood? Don't you know this is and he began to use racial slurs to describe the neighborhood that we lived in. Well, upon hearing his use of these racial slurs to describe this neighborhood, this guy to my right on the payphone, I heard him say to the person he was talking to, hey, let me call you back. And he hung the phone up. He turned around and started walking toward these four gentlemen. And the three of those brothers turned around and made their way to their automobile, got in and left. And y'all, I was just in a maze. I was just like, as my brain is processing what just happened. It's like was it Moses who said, be still and see the deliverance of God. Here I am standing here, oh ye of little faith, plotting how I'm going to fight my way out of this situation, and God's delivering me. And God has a sense of humor. Let me tell you the rest of the story. So these gentlemen, they leave, and I'm standing here with my back to this thing, and all of a sudden this huge black man turns around and looks at me and he goes, you need to pick your friends a little better, don't you? And I looked at him and I said, sir, them were not my friends. Were not my buddies. And he goes, oh yeah? And I said, yeah. I said, them three guys that were surrounding me, I said, they were fixing to start wailing on me until you pulled up. And he looked at me and he says, well, if I'd have known that, me and you would have had some fun. And I told him, I said, you know what? You're literally an answer to prayer. God sent you here tonight. And he told me something that was really kind of cool. And this is why I say God has a sense of humor. He said, I don't never come to this store. Anytime I have to use the payphone, I go to the one right up the road. There literally was another store, exact same. They were called holiday markets back then. There was another holiday market right up the street, probably less than a mile. He said, I normally go to use the phone there, but I think somebody was on that phone, so he drove down to the one I was at. I'd seen God put this together so that I was protected by placing a man with a simple need to use a payphone beside me during this time to answer my prayer that I would never have to use my hands to inflict any harm on another human being again. Our God is a deliverer. He is. And he does answer prayer. And, I hope this story encourages your faith. It certainly encouraged mine. I think back to things like these quite often at the number of times that I was that close, I should say, from being hurt, this close from being overcome, and God has delivered me, and sometimes right at the last moment. Anyway, I hope this will be an encouragement to you guys. Pray. He is a faithful God. He does answer prayer. Trust in him. He's worth it. See ya.